Aloha Friday, everybody. Thank you for joining us tonight. I'm very excited. We're going to the Pacific side of the U.S., a side that I miss so much. But I have tonight with me Ian Milnes, president of Power Knot, and we'll be talking about leadership and sustainability. Now, I mentioned in my little excerpt when I was publishing this live that some people don't know, Ian, that sustainability has or that leadership has a play in sustainability. But before we get into all of that, I want to give you an opportunity to go ahead and just introduce yourself, tell us what you're doing, and then we'll get into the topic for tonight.
Oh, good afternoon. My name is Ian Milnes. I'm the president and founder of PowerKnot. We design, develop, and manufacture machines that digest waste food. So we provide our machines to any customer with a large amount of waste food, and it will eat that waste food and send it safely down the drain. This keeps the waste food out of the landfill. If it goes to the landfill, it generates methane. Methane is 84 times worse for the atmosphere than carbon dioxide. So customers using our machine are really saving a lot of the environment and a lot of the planet.
No, that's wonderful. And as you was talking about that, I remember being I spent 26 years in the Navy, and we have a lot of machines that help make sure that we don't leave a bad footprint on this earth. Recycling is one of the major programs that we are involved in, and so it's so nice to know that there's a company like yours making sure that we don't continue to contribute in a bad way to our legacy, our future, right? And it was interesting. I was looking up the word sustainability, and this came up, and I want to read it real quick because it does bridge very well leadership and sustainability, the recycling, the making sure that things are good for the future. And it says sustainability focuses on meeting the needs of the present without compromising the ability of future generations to meet their needs. And how responsible is that? I mean,
The fact of the matter is that many of us in the West have lived a good life, and we continue to live a good life, and we continue to plunder the resources of the planet, and things have to change. And that means businesses, people, governments have to change. And we have to do things differently and with more focus on the resources of the planet and with less pollution to the planet. And so it demands that people have to change. And it's as simple as that. And we're trying to lead people in that direction. We can't do it alone, obviously, but that's where we are.
no, and that's amazing because you mentioned some key words there that in that little conversation, change being one of them. Now, in leadership alone, change is very hard to bring into adaptation by the masses, and that's one of the reasons why people are in leadership. They can do that so that they can actually facilitate change for whatever reason it may be, right? It may not just be this industry. But you mentioned something that is really one of the pain points for us as human beings on this planet, because we all have our own regional specific things that we do, right? You mentioned the West. There's India, there's Australia, there's China, there's all kinds of other countries that are involved in this one planet, and not everybody sees eye to eye, right? Especially in this area of sustainability. Can you tell me what you're seeing and as you operate and go abroad? Because I know you move around. How is the world as a whole adopting this sustainability mindset?
Um, you know, yeah, we sell our product globally, and the majority of our product is still sold internationally. But the US is one of the world's largest polluters of the environment, and the US should be the largest market. But a lot of people are looking at the cost of our product and saying, hey, I can lease your product for $1,000 a month, but my trash bill is $800 a month. Therefore, although I want to be green, I'm considering about the greenback, not the environment green. And unfortunately, that has to change. In Europe, people would say, okay, we can't send our waste food to the landfill, period. Uh, we have to, we just can't do that. That's not environmentally sound. Yes, we'll pay that extra amount to have a machine like yours so that we can improve the environment and reduce our carbon footprint. We're making progress in Nigeria. Lagos State is very motivated to reduce the carbon footprint in their state. And in this country, it is changing because of environmental laws that are being passed. In California, there's a new law coming into effect on the 1st of January. And that's finally pushing people to say, yeah, we need to change.
And it's as you're talking about the different places, and you mentioned the U.S. I won't say that I'm disappointed, right? Uh, uh, well, you have to be disappointed if basically one of the nations that can really make a difference, uh, it is not right. And hey, I hope that changes for everyone's sake. But you also mentioned um, decision making, right? There's a decision being made, one over the other. The dollar, the green, or the actual green, saving resources, or at least ensuring, by the definition that I read earlier, at least ensuring that we're responsible enough that we can make sure that our future has the resources necessary for them to continue and go on. So that decision making is so you would think it'd be easy to go green.
Yes, but you see, most of the companies that we're selling to are large corporations, and many of those large corporations are public companies, and people are expecting quarterly results, and that's what's driving a lot of it. We're doing our best to lead people in the right direction. We're writing about it. We're talking to folks like you. We're doing the best that we can to show that we're a frugal company in the way that we don't waste resources here in our own business here. So we're trying to lead the way and trying to teach people that, yeah, this is important. This is really important. You have to get this waste out of the landfill. It cannot go to the landfill. And here is one way of doing it.
Right. So have I wonder what the conversation is like when you're talking to somebody that has the ability to enact some changes in terms of the responsible living, so that we can ensure someone else is able to do that in the future. What does that conversation sound like, and what would you tell a business owner that does produce waste? Because not all businesses produce waste, but does those that do, what would you tell them to get them to start thinking a little more responsibly? And what's the major pushback outside of the dollar?
Well, of course, we're not talking to the business owner, right? If we're talking to a large corporation, we're talking to a facilities manager or an engineering director. Sometimes we'll even talk to the CFO, but it's not their money, and it's not their business. They may own part of the business, but it's not their entire business, and therefore there is a problem in actually getting them to understand that this is something they need to push forward. This is something that's critical. This is something that their customers are now looking at, their sustainability practices, their how much is their carbon footprint. And a lot of people will install things like LED lights, for instance, which has a minimal effect compared to a company that's sending waste food to the landfill. As an example, if somebody takes one of our mid-sized machines, and we've got big hotels that are using that type of machine, if they're sending that waste food to the landfill instead of using one of our machines, they would need to offset it with a whole football field of solar panels, which would need to be lit most of the year to be able to offset that same carbon footprint. And sure, installing some solar panels on the roof is good, but you have to put it into perspective. Have you got a whole football field of solar panels, or have you got something that just simply shows that you're making an attempt to become green? And so we're trying to lead people down the right path to understanding the implications of what they're doing and how they're accomplishing it, and what they can do to reduce their real carbon footprint.
You know, it's funny how a lot of the times we're looking for ways to conserve and do better in a lot of areas. I focus mainly on the leadership development, making sure that everybody understands what's necessary there to sustain us, throughout the years, and not only sustain us currently, but make sure that we have a pipeline of leaders that will take us to the future. I There's no doubt that these companies that you talk to about this specific topic, while you're trying to run your own business, right, and sell your product, the reason why you're in business is to kind of twofold. You have a solution to a need, and you're creating a product, obviously for business purposes, but it's not solely a selfish approach, because your product is actually helping out on a long-term basis, and it's helping out the land that we so love. Now, behind me, you see Diamond Head, Waikiki. I'm not physically there, I'll tell you that right now, because if I was, there'd be a bigger smile on my face. But that's a piece of land that is waterlocked, right? There's nothing but water around it. Any real impact to that land because of these issues will be so catastrophic. And so they're very careful, about their play on and with their use of the earth, and their relationship with the earth is whole. Totally different from mainland USA. But we go back to, let's say, mainland USA. You mentioned laws that are being enacted, and those can and maybe not kind of help. What do you see as the biggest decision that the US can make to help this out a whole lot more than what it is?
Well, yes, I mean, banning organic waste from a landfill is something that is required for improving our business and improving the businesses of the companies that we sell to. Um, as I said, it's a huge carbon footprint to be sending waste food to a landfill. Businesses can reduce that very easily by deploying a system such as ours. Um, but in addition to that, people aren't changing, and yet young people are highly motivated about the planet. I won't be alive in 60 years, but some of the young people around us are going to be here in 60 years, and it's going to be a very different planet. So one of the things that we're doing as a business is we've aligned with a local company, local group, Pilot City, to be able to bring students in here on internships so they can learn about the impact of the climate and how our products are helping to reduce that. And so it's those youths who are going to be able to push the politicians and make the decisions in years to come. And hopefully that's not too late for the planet.
What amazes me by your comments there is the fact that in a lot of the leadership environment, there's been a lot of talk about the youth. Yeah, especially with this label of millennials, right? I don't necessarily like those things, because a person is a person. I don't care what age and what era or anything. It's a person. Uh, but we start to hear a lot being spoken about this generation, right? Just like the ones before and the one before, and I'm sure they said a whole lot of things about me when I was growing up, right? And it's interesting that you would say that the youth of today are more interested in this type of uh, way of life, where uh, they really care about certain things that obviously some adults may not, lawmakers may not. But why do you think that is?
Well, you see, people of your age and my age, we've had it good for many years. We've lived up with the good life of being able to get in a car and drive whenever we want and wherever we want. Um, and go to a restaurant and eat whatever we want whenever we want, but the youth is hasn't had that good life, but what they're looking ahead of them is a pretty sorry life if we can't save the planet. I mean, just in the last few months we've had in this country floods, fires, hurricanes, destruction, and people, the youth, are looking at that and they've not lived through the good times. And I think that, you mentioned that people of our age don't care. Well, I think they do care. It's just really tough to make the changes necessary to their lifestyle to be able to protect the planet. And I can't deny that it's tough. You can't fly everywhere. I mean, there's a pandemic as well now, so but you just can't get on a plane and go wherever you want, because that's a destruction of the planet. You have to think about your lifestyle, and reduce your impact on the environment.
I like that you mentioned lifestyle, and obviously, I did not mean that everybody didn't care. There are some that obviously do. You wouldn't be in that business if you didn't, right? But uh, and it's that change, right? And so now we're going to transition a little into the leadership piece, because it takes true leadership to help people start to understand what's really going on. Now, these issues have been and have become politically charged, right? You have some in political arenas that hey, that's a bunch of you know what, and don't listen to that. We're just fine. And then you have the others that are sitting on top of an iceberg. You can't move me unless unless you get me out of here. There's just such a spectrum of ways of dealing with this specific topic of sustainability,
I
and
think that
education.
yeah, I think that no, I mean, things got really bad when the president of the United States declared that global warming was a hoax perpetuated by the Chinese. When we have tens of thousands of scientists around the globe who are warning us of the catastrophe that is impending and coming, and for people to continue to bury their head in the sand and deny that there's a climate change, or find some little niche spot and say, yeah, but look, the climate warmed 2 million years ago and it's going to warm again now. No, you can't cherry pick little bits of information. There is a climate catastrophe. The planet is getting warmer, and the recent hurricanes, floods, fires are all evident of this, as if you don't need any more evidence. And it's going to get worse unless we can make it better. So, yes, it is a problem that there are so many people who in the past have denied it, but I think the number of those people is now diminishing rapidly, and everybody is starting to realize that, yeah, this is something we need to sit up and pay attention to.
Yeah, I definitely agree. Now, I come from a meteorology background and an oceanography background, so I understand full well the impacts and the changes that have occurred throughout the years. Definitely throughout the 26 years that I served in the military, I saw different things in different areas that we would be in. We would take a sounding, or we would do a air balloon and launch it, and we would see the different for the same area difference in uh, temperature and the impacts, especially out to sea. So when you have leadership, right? Because you mentioned a president. Okay, you're gonna get all kinds of different people in that seat throughout the years, right? If they don't serve 8 years in the U.S., you're gonna get a bunch of them, and they're gonna say different things at different times. But a leader that can actually do something, uh, let's say a company, right? You mentioned talking to CFOs, you mentioned talking to engineers. Um, I wish you can talk to more CEOs then you get the opportunity to, because those are the real people that can actually make a change if they see it the way it should be, right? So what is holding leadership back from adopting sustainability? Now, I know we mentioned earlier, there's money involved in business. Everybody knows that. There's a lot of things that are decided because of money that maybe doesn't favor the company at times. But this is something that's external to the company. So I understand where uh, the real heartburn is to try to, well, okay, I could do that, but then I have my competitor that's not doing that, and then they're going to get some ground, and then I'm going to lose some ground. And so, how do we get people to collectively start seeing this outside of education, but internally? So,
I,
I mean, do I need to hire some environmentalists?
I think that the thing is that there is pressure. The more that we, our company and other companies like us, are raising the red flag and telling people, hey, this is important. um, as I said, we're talking to you, we're writing blogs, we're writing articles, we're talking to the press, we're doing a lot to lead this charge, or be at least part of the leadership of this charge, to make people aware that this is important, this is something you need to do, this is something that you need to do. And as we do that, then the customers of those businesses are starting to sit up and say, okay, what are you doing about sustainability, Mr. Business? Should I be buying your products? Should I be staying in your hotel, knowing that you pay scant attention to climate change? Uh, there are, even over 5 years ago, there were hotels in this country which were saying, okay, they get forms from customers asking about their sustainability practices before they will hold a convention in that hotel, or before they will hold a banquet in the hotel. And so as the education goes out, as the leadership goes out to people, the people can drive those CEOs to sit up and say, yes, we need to be more sustainable in order for our business, uh, regardless whether it's good for the planet or not. Just for our business, we need to be doing that, because our business is going to suffer if we're not being a sustainable business. And then, of course, they would realize that, yes, being a sustainable business is not something that's going to cost you money in the long term. Uh, you know, our product, you have to buy our product, you have to pay for our product. But in the long term, a business that buys our product is actually going to save money. So not only saving the planet, but also saving money. And as more and more people who frequent these businesses or use the products of these businesses pay attention to the climate change, then it's going to be more of an impact. For instance, in Europe, a large public company must, as well as produce their profit and loss statement, must also produce their carbon footprint. And shareholders can decide who they're going to invest in based upon their carbon footprint, as well as their profit and loss statements.
Wow, that's very interesting. I mean, I like that. I like it. I don't know how well it's gonna actually do in the U.S., but I love that. It shows responsibility. It shows that this company cares. It shows that they are active in making sure that they don't, leave bad stuff behind. Um, but you mentioned something. I want to dive into that a little bit because there's a thing that we call manage up, right? In leadership development, we often teach some people that, hey, look, in the absence of a true leader, because it is right. Sometimes you have a positional person there, but they're not a true leader, and so we help them to develop a way to manage up, meaning, hey, help that leader, and oh, by the way, uh, also coach them in a way where they don't feel like they're getting, like, demoted on the spot by somebody that works for them, but that there's interest in their development as well from your standpoint. And so we call that manage up sometimes. And you mentioned the effect of external, or first internal workers, right? The workers in the company, and then sometimes external. I have seen some companies shift their tune based on public opinion and how they start to gauge them. Hey, hold up now. I noticed that you do this. Why? And then once the consumer start to ask the real questions, then they start to say, "Oh, hold up now," because that may equal loss of money. When
Yes.
you get loss of confidence, you may suffer a great loss of financial gain. And so it's I love the way where that power shifts back to the consumer versus the producer, and the business, because it is truly, every business is created for a consumer. And so I don't understand why the consumer is not as uh, able or ready to ask those tough questions. Because I tell you what, if the consumers did, we'd be a whole lot farther down the road.
Yes, and also, businesses that deal with businesses are also starting to ask about the CSR, the corporate responsibility of their suppliers. So, for instance, we have a large auto parts supplier that straddles the Texas-Mexico border, and they sell their auto parts to the major U.S. manufacturers, car manufacturers, and they were pushing to use our product so that they can reduce their carbon footprint, because their customers, which are not consumers but are instead the large auto manufacturers, are requiring them to demonstrate how they are reducing their carbon footprint. So it is actually happening, you know, and there are other large retailers which are also pushing back on their suppliers to reduce carbon footprint. So people are changing. It's the businesses are selling to other businesses which are also trying to reduce carbon footprint. So the visibility is there amongst some big companies. The mid-sized companies, it's tough because they're still paying attention to the bottom dollar, and we're trying to get them to change.
Well, I mean, I don't think that the problem is paying attention to the bottom dollar, because if you don't have a business, right? You won't be in business long. So there's that aspect, and I want to take a moment just to thank everybody that's tuning in tonight. If you are on there, just get quick on the chat. Let us know where you chiming in from, where you're looking in from. And Cecilia put this in here, and I want to talk about this a little bit. I think employees get a moral boost when they see their employers care about the earth and the future as well. And that kind of goes back to what you had said earlier about the youth of this age how they're seemingly more grateful and enjoy employers that kind of go that way, that are showing that type of responsibility. Now, I tell you this, I had a situation with a leader, and when they had said something that I felt was not responsible thing to say, and it changes your mind a little, not all the way, but just a little. It starts to throw some kind of like, what was that about, right? Because you didn't hear that before. And so if employees, and this is what I want, it's somebody joining us from Fredericksburg, Virginia. Thank you for being with us. I can't tell you how it is because it says LinkedIn user, but that's a setting issue. That's fine. Thank you for being with us tonight. So, uh, if employees knew their true power, right? Because you have an opportunity uh, as an employee to right size maybe some wrongs that the company may be involved in. Now, there's some of those companies that there's nothing you can do. You'll be gone in a second, right?
Yes.
But for companies that have a smaller size of complement of employees, usually that's more conducive to relationships where you can actually come in and voice, if the environment is set up that way, you can voice some opinions that could steer the company in the right way. Because if you don't have, there's an external trust that businesses rely on, the consumers, but there's an internal trust that they better make sure is there, and that's the employees.
Yes. So let me give you an example of our own facility here, our own company here. We're not a huge company, and but I've directed and cajoled people to separate all our trash accordingly. So cardboard doesn't go into the trash; it gets into the recycle bin. Metal, even tiny scraps of metal, we keep and we recycle all the metal, and we recycle the water. We use water in our manufacturing facility to be able to test our products and make sure there are no water leaks. So we use a lot of water inside some of our machines. And what we do is once we finish testing one machine, we'll pour that water into another machine to test it. Well, from time to time, we've got all the machines are full of water, and we need to empty water out of one machine, and there's no more machines to put it into because of the way the production works. And so at times we've had to discard water, and a lot of water, 600 liters, 150 gallons, just goes down the drain. And so one of the employees said, "This is unacceptable." And I agree, completely unacceptable. So what we've done recently is to buy some large water tanks, some large used water tanks. And now we put that water into the water tanks, and then we pump it into the next machine. So we save it so we don't have to throw it away. Now, has that been cost effective? No, the cost of the water is cheaper than the water tanks. We could continue to throw our water away, but it's not the best thing to do. It's not good for the environment. It's not what we should be doing as a company. And so there's a real example of how corporate social responsibility can play an effect on our manufacturing facility.
Well, I love straight away the fact that some employee can say this is unacceptable, and you're willing to listen, because that is usually the most painful thing to that an employee can do. Sometimes they have to think about it 10 times before they ever say anything. And so if you've created an environment like that, kudos to you, to be able to have that type of environment where an employee can actually voice something and say, you know what, yeah, I agree with you. And you make a second point there that I love. It's easier to just get rid of this, on our part,
Yes.
but it's not the right thing to do. And so when you choose as a company and as a leader, so for those that are out there listening, when you as a leader choose the right thing to do over the easy thing to do, you have stepped into some leadership realm that you will never forget, and some others won't ever forget, because they will understand that, yes, hey, it cost us to be good, to do good. We didn't take the easy way out and say, you know what, forget about it. This is not going to benefit us in any way. So it doesn't make any sense, except that, oh, we're trying to be, responsible leaders and a responsible company. And this is what we're going to be gauged on. Our actions today are going to be the the measuring stick to our longevity tomorrow. And so, as leaders, you need to always think about that.
Yes, I mean even the simple stuff, Enrique. About just recycling cardboard. Our production line is very busy. People take things and take the equipment off the shelf. It's in a cardboard box. There's some of it is trash and some of it is cardboard. It's the easy thing to do is just dump everything into the trash, but it's not the right thing to do. So as a company, it costs us money, little money each time, for the employee to separate and realize this is trash, this is recyclable. And so our trash is minimal, but our recyclable is good stuff that can go. Even bits of metal that come, when we cut off some cable, it goes down the street to the guy who recycles cable. Um, so little bits of wire and stuff, it's not trash. Let's separate it. We pay our employees the extra to do the extra mile, to do what is better for the environment, rather than to directly improve our bottom line, because it takes time to do this stuff, but it's the right thing to do.
You remind me of a post that I made a couple of days ago, and I was taking my daughter to school. But she works at school. She's a nurse aide there, and I was waiting to drop her off, and then I'm directly behind a car, and the car said, so and so detailing services, and the car must have been the filthiest I've seen in a while, right? And so, and talk about confusion of message there. Uh, and then I immediately, and I made a post about it. I said it immediately took me to leadership, because how many leaders have advertised that they are so and so, and then in practice they're nothing of it? And so, how many companies have advertised that they are so and so, and then in practice they're nowhere near what they are, or what they say they are, right? So it's a good thing to hear that not only are you providing a product that will help people in the sustainability area, but you yourself are being responsible, even at cost, to ensure that the right thing is being done for sustainability purposes. And so, leaders that are listening out there, you take that example of the car, right? I won't be calling that individual anytime soon to detail my car if
Yes.
their car looks like that. But it's how it is, right? Sometimes leadership poses you some situations where you are verbalizing some things that you wish you could do. You know you can't do it, and the people know you can't do it. And so I would just caution leaders out there to only toot your horn on the things that you know you can do. And and if you are that type of leader that is just kind of like, I don't know, hey, get some help. And this is what you are here, Ian, for, to help companies get to the right side of sustainability. I love that you are doing this, even as a small company as you are, and all the companies that are in this kind of arena. Uh, Good for them to be spearheading this. Now, tell me, I have this message of sustainability, and or I have this goal of sustainability, and I'm a company myself. How would I get a hold of Ian Mills? And what's the easiest way to do that?
Powernot at powernot.com. Now we'll get to me. And yeah, happy to help anybody to if I mean, even if ours isn't the right solution, we can talk to you about possible solutions for getting organic waste out of the landfill, and we can educate people about the climate impacts of sending organic waste to the landfill. You know, waste food. We deal with waste food, and there's no silver bullet to getting rid of waste food. You know, if you can compost locally, and you can use that compost locally to grow fruits and vegetables, 10 out of 10 every time. If you're putting that waste food, that organic material, into a truck and driving it 150 miles up to the nearest compost facility, and then from there it's going another 150 miles to a farm, that's not necessarily good for the environment. That's not good for the planet. And the same with anaerobic digestion. Some things work for some people in some places, other things work for others. Our machine will give you 8 or 9 out of 10 every time. But yes, if somebody needs to contact me, powernot@powernot.com will get to me.
Outstanding, folks. If you're listening, if you're chiming in, and you know that this is an area that you need some help in, and you have a company out there that you want to get on the right side of sustainability, please reach out to Ian. For those of you listening and are wondering on the leadership side, you have to create an avenue for the next generation of leaders to be able to not only tap into what they can do, but also take the next generation forward. If you are not choosing the right things to do, even when it's painful, even when it costs you a buck, then what you're doing is you're sapping up the resources right now, and that's all good and well, but you're not leaving anything for the future. And so, if you're a leader and you want your people to grow, uh, help them not only see the resources they have, but the resources that they can soundly manage and ensure that the next generation has it. Ian, thank you so much for being with me tonight. Aloha from not, I'm in Florida, but hey, I wish I was in Hawaii. It's been a pleasure to talk to you, sir. I hope that you and your company continue to succeed and press forward on a sustainability issue. And I hope a lot of people, more people than that you have been able to talk to, especially CEOs, will allow you the time to speak with them.
Thank you very much, Enrique. Good night.
All right, folks. Next week we have another guest. We're excited about them coming on. Obviously, you're going to see all of our posts. Keep a tab of that. Aloha, everybody.